There's music here tonight, music here tonight. The lights are on at the cafe. There's music here tonight, music here tonight. The lights are on at the cafe. The lights still on at the cafe.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're good. Okay, welcome everybody. It's great to see you all here, and hi, Bo.
Hi, Sarah.
It's good to be sitting here with you on stage at Caffe Lena. So this is a monthly series called Art of Community, and we started it a few months ago, but we only started being able to have a crowd for the last session, and it's been a delight. But I just want to welcome anybody who's watching from outside the area. So we're live streaming this part right now. And I know that, Bo, you have friends far and wide and fans far and wide, as does Caffe Lena. So for anyone watching outside the area, we are in Saratoga Springs, New York right now. It's a wonderful small city that has a very vibrant downtown that has lots of small independent businesses, and it also has a very powerful impact sector. The impact sector is made up of nonprofit organizations that tackle all kinds of challenges and opportunities that make this a wonderful place to live. So we deal with people in this room deal with everything from the arts to building nature trails to working with people on housing and healthcare, and I am looking at your faces, and I know that you just deal with so many creative solutions that make life better in Saratoga. And the organization and the person that we're looking at today is Bo Galieber, and she is the Chief Development and Communications Officer for AIM Services. And so where I want to start right now is to just have you say a little bit about what AIM Services does.
Sure. We are a nonprofit located here in Saratoga Springs, and we serve people with developmental and intellectual disabilities as well as traumatic brain injury.
Great. So that is a wonderful organization, I happen to know, because Caffe Lena has done some really creative projects with people from AIM Services over the last few years. And so what I want to talk about, though, is not so much about what AIM Services do, but I want to talk about you, because this is about how you stay in the game in the nonprofit world, which is a very challenging line of work. And I want to talk about, I want to explore what inspires you, how you got on this path, what you've learned about it, what you can share with others. So why don't we start with how you got on this path? Because my experience is that most people don't tell us about careers in the nonprofit sector. There's something that our heart leads us to, and we go out and find them. So how did you get on this path?
So it started when I was actually quite a bit younger. When I graduated from college, we always thought that I would end up in the news business. So I spent my first couple of years in news as a producer and a writer, and I really liked it and I learned a lot. But I quickly realized that I needed something that had a deeper purpose. So that led me to actually Franklin Community Center here in Saratoga. They were really new in terms of not having a big brand, and they were known for doing amazing work, but there wasn't a big community presence in terms of how to bring people to them. So that was something that I was able to bring based on the experience. And once I landed there, I knew that the nonprofit world, or at least that purpose-driven work, was something that I was going to need to do for the rest of my life. So now there was an 8-year span in between where I was on the corporate philanthropy side, but still very much getting to touch the community organization. So it was driven by that purpose. And then COVID, for many of us, I think we all had that realization that there's something deeper within us, right? Like, it gave a lot of us an opportunity to self-reflect and say, what really matters. And I am definitely not meant to work from home. I learned that very quickly. I was slowly dying, sitting in my house and couldn't figure out why. And I was like, oh, it's because I haven't really hung out with people in 6 months. So I reached back out to AIM Services, and I have built an amazing relationship with our executive director over the years, and was able to kind of just say, what do you guys think? Are you in a place to be able to invest in a position like this? And they were right at that point, and it's been magic for the past 2 years. So.
It sounds like you're interested in people's stories, to go from news to helping people.
100%. I think that's, for me, if I've learned anything about myself, I am driven by meaningful connection and being able to make those connections on a deeper level, and now getting to do it on the work side, being able to work with the people we support and learning about them and what drives them and what their hopes and dreams are, and then being able to raise the funds with our team to be able to say we can actually help these dreams come true, and then tell people about it. Really is a dream come true.
One thing that I find interesting about the nonprofit sector, and I'm sure that this happens in regular businesses also, but I feel like the nonprofit sector is particularly open to it, is that merging of the creative mind and then the practical mind. Do you find that you're pulling on your creativity in doing this work?
I do. And one of the gifts that I think I had those 8 years at Fingerpaint in between was I was surrounded by incredibly talented creatives, and I learned so much. And so what's wild is now I get to work with a creative team at AIM and take some of those learnings that I had from Fingerpaint and then kind of teach other people within the agency who are very programmatic in their way of thinking, and helping them start to understand why those stories are important, which then helps them engage in a different way because it gives us more stuff to be able to bring that back to the community. And our ultimate goal is obviously to support the people that we serve, but it's also so much about enlightening the community about the people we serve and how they can help. I think so many people want to make a difference or want to be inclusive, but don't even know where to start. So that's been really creative in being able to tell that story to people and have it resonate with them in a way that makes them want to give back and make a difference.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You use the word programmatic, people who are programmatic. Could you just tell me more about what you mean by that? Because I bet everybody in this room right now is thinking, gosh, is my organization too programmatic?
And I don't think it's not a two, right? I think we're super fortunate at AIM that we're really well resourced, that we have a team whose job is the fundraising and development and communications. And it is imperative that we work alongside of the folks who are actually providing the support. I think sometimes it doesn't matter what business you're in, people can be somewhat siloed, and that can break down that ability to communicate the real stories because you have someone on the programmatic side not necessarily, somebody talking about what you're doing, but not actually living it or walking the walk. And what's really amazing about AIM is our entire team, we're working in the houses, we're filling shifts, we're working hands-on to be able to truly understand what goes on. So then when we talk about it, it's actual, mm-hmm. It's not just this hypothetical story that we're just trying to make people feel good. It's the real deal. And I think that if there's any advice I can give, it's to make sure that your communications team and your programmatic teams are communicating as much as possible to be able to figure out if the work, as you're raising funds, making sure that funnel it's really happening and it's in a meaningful way.
Wow. I feel just like this incredible pull on me right now to just go right down a fundraising theme of conversation. But I'm going to try not to do that too much. But let me just ask you a question about the storytelling part. You are really good at telling stories. You do that for AIM, but like you said, you did it at Fingerpaint, and there's a part of just marketing in general that is storytelling, but it's storytelling with a purpose. Can you talk just a little bit about what makes a high impact story for a nonprofit organization? What are the do's and the don'ts?
I think the biggest do is to make sure it's authentic and organic. And sometimes that means you might have to wait a minute to get that perfect story, because if you're fabricating something or you're creating something and trying to pull people along with you, the intention isn't pure. And so I drive the point home. Our CEO's here. I tell him intention is everything. And that's how we live our lives at work. But also when we're telling a story, if the intention is to make a true, authentic connection to the message. So I would say that's probably the biggest piece, is just don't create something just to get your name out there. Make sure, wait for the nugget that is going to be the thing that makes people resonate.
I really agree with that. And then another piece of that that I hear a lot about is making the donor the hero rather than making your organization the hero. And that, to me, is such a fine line to walk. It's so easy to just start talking about ourselves as heroes.
Yes, and we're really careful about that at AIM anyway, because we never make it about us. Even some of our message, our big campaign last year was, it's about the people we support. We're just a conduit to help them live their highest level of independence. So we never really make it about us, but we do try to make that donor connection significant, because really the donors are, in our case, are supporting everything above and beyond. So all the stuff that you or I would have access to, the arts, music classes, dance lessons, Yankees game, it's really our donors that are doing that. But those things are the things that are helping them live their best life. So we're sort of just like this pass-through, I think. And the ultimate goal, as I said, we want to get the people we support to be part of our community. We want the community to see them just like they see you or me. And that's the ultimate goal. So as long as it's all, from that organic connection, I think it'll all work itself out. We're just, you might not see it overnight, but you're moving forward.
I have always worked in the nonprofit sector. Other than, jobs that I had in college and high school, waiting tables and doing things like that, I've always been in the nonprofit sector. And I'm very curious about your experience, because you have been in both worlds. And I would love to hear anything you have to say about kind of what's similar and what's different. I know that a number of people who have sat in your chair over the last few months of doing this series have said, one thing that our donors really like is that we run it like a business, and that there are elements of the business world that we do need to, honor and replicate in nonprofits. We need that financial accountability. We need the, good, powerful systems. We need good chains of command. We need all of that kind of stuff. There are also differences. Mm-hmm. Can you talk at all about that?
Yeah, I think what's interesting to me is whether it's a corporate business or a nonprofit, I feel like a lot of the same issues are kind of plaguing both sides. Staffing issues, reliable employees, culture issues, trying to make sure that from a cultural side you're doing the right thing. So that's kind of interesting to me, to see that in both worlds, like a lot of those same issues exist. And I don't look at them necessarily as problems, but more just so like opportunities for growth and where you might need to focus some of your energy. I think that big differences, I can't really, I was so fortunate that even on the corporate side, my role was still very much community driven and, folk culture piece. So I always had that until until things started to become more corporate and I was working from home. Then that's when I sort of started to lose the connection. But I think here, one of the things that impresses me at AIM is that the focus is the people we support. And I can say that consistently, being part of the senior leadership team now and knowing that everyone's focus is about the people we support, where it's not a bottom line. We're not driven by a profit or making, obviously the goal is to stay in the black, but we're dealing with people's lives. And so the purpose is so much deeper, and it's our interrelations within the organization are they're built on respect. So it's like respect for each other, respect for the people we support, and then everything else falls into place. So you don't have to be best friends with the person. You don't have to go out for beers for a happy hour, but you better believe that when we're sitting in the room making plans for the strategic, future of the organization, everyone's on the same page with the purpose being the focus. And I would say that for me, I don't know that it's a difference or like a negative or a positive, but it's been inspiring for me to walk away from a leadership retreat and feel like the people in that room, we're all on the same page. We are all with our same focus on the same goals. And that feels really good.
And that is the people that you serve.
100%. Yeah.
And so I would extrapolate from that in the nonprofit world, that mission focus comes first, and the
Definitely.
profit has to support that.
I think
and
so.
then maybe in the for-profit world, it's the profit has to happen, and the mission serves the profit.
Yeah, I think I think a successful nonprofit organization, when they put the mission first, as soon as you start thinking about how much money you have to raise or how many dollars, we have to hit this goal, if you lose the focus of the mission, again, intention is everything. If your intention is to make connections, to raise awareness, to bring people into the mission, you can't lose. The money will follow.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's always kind of been and it might take longer. I might not have a $1 million check come to me. I'm okay with that. Because I know at the long and the short of it is that the connections we're making are sustainable and people are being brought into the mission for the right reason.
That makes me feel good, Bo, because I haven't gotten $1 million
Yeah,
check.
same. We'll get there.
All right, I'm going to switch gears just a little bit. The social impact sector it's challenging. I mean, I think that is there any job in this country right now that's not challenging? I'm not too sure about that. I think it's challenging for everyone right now. But in the impact sector, it is definitely the case that we are always having to look for that next dollar. We always want to provide more service than we possibly can. We're aware of tremendous and huge needs. It can be taxing and exhausting. And so I want to talk a little bit about that end of things and, what keeps you going and what keeps you strong and what gives you your new ideas and all of that. So as you look back, it could even be over the last couple of years, or it could be longer. Has there been a time when you felt like, I think I'm just in over my head and I can't solve this one and I'm ready to throw in the towel?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been moments where it feels like tiny moments of defeat, maybe, where you're like, am I able to do as much as needs to be done? Am I going to hit, I want to be able to reach certain goals. I find that I struggle the most when I start comparing myself to the external. And anytime I'm like, well, look what they did, or look how much money they raised, or why are they getting so much money at their events and we're only here? The minute you start doing that, you're gonna fail, because whether you're failing on the outside or on the inside, you feel like dirt, and nobody walks away feeling like that was the result you wanted. So I have been very careful about trying to keep my feet under me when it comes to that stuff and just focus on the internal, the purpose, the mission. Who am I surrounding myself with? What am I doing in those times when I'm feeling stressed out, so that I am limiting my exposure to those things that cause me angst, and there's a million things, social media, sometimes you just have to be like, no, I'm shutting it down. And I think that it's sort of like knowing your core values, what really matters, sticking to that, and not getting caught up in what everybody else is doing, because it doesn't help. If you can use that stuff to fuel you, to motivate you to say, oh my God, I'm inspired by that, I'm going to go do that, then that's different. But beating yourself up because you're not where somebody else is, in professionally and personally, I mean, you're just not helping yourself. So I've been really careful, and it's a work in progress, right? Like, I'm the queen of constantly having to rein myself in, because I get too caught up in, what other people are thinking or doing or saying. And I surround myself with people who keep me in check and be like, hey, you're doing that again, or maybe don't care so much about that because it's not important. And I try to do that for other people too. You're doing a great job. Keep up the good work. Stay focused. But I think it's really about knowing yourself internally, and then surrounding yourself with people who lift you up and support you and don't make you feel scared if you're not hitting a certain goal, or you want people who are walking beside you and holding your hand and saying, you're doing a great job. You're doing a great job, Sarah.
You're incredible, Bo, and I'll try not to compare myself.
Please don't. Thank you.
So, there's been this new thing that's been placed on our to-do lists in the last few years that nobody used to talk about in the nonprofit world, and suddenly everybody's talking about it, and it's called work-life balance. It's like, oh my gosh, I have to do this too.
Yeah.
What's that like for you?
So I have to be careful because I'm really lucky, and it's not lost on me how fortunate I am. So I have a team at AIM who we're resourced, we're well staffed, they're competent and brilliant and know all the things that I don't. So as a team, I never feel like I'm alone. So I don't take that for granted. And I have felt that in the past. Certainly in the past, I've been in jobs where, it's like, it's just me doing this all over the country. Like, that's stressful, right? So I don't have that stress anymore. And I think that was also partly a conscious decision on my part to say, I would rather go someplace where the purpose is my motivation and the people are there to sort of support me, and utilize that as a way to kind of find that, to try to achieve that balance. So, and I have a really good support system. I'm also way better at asking for help. Like, I'm the first person to say, like, okay, I can't do it this week. My mom drove north to pick up my daughter to drive south. She picked up my dog at the groomer last week. Like, sometimes you just have to ask for help, So I'm also at that place where, like, that self-awareness requires you to sometimes check yourself and say, yep, I'm on the verge of losing it. So sometimes you just got to check yourself and ask for help. Take a nap. Read a book. I don't know. Have a snack. I get hangry a lot, so always have a snack in your bag,
I've been like taking a slightly different angle on that lately. I've been like listening to that voice a lot more. It's like my mind is filling with a lot of kind of just like maybe self-pity, or it could be like, the comparisons, or it could be just feelings of frustration. And I just say, like, yo, what is your ego telling you right now? What is it trying to battle for you for? Like, oh, because you haven't slept for 3 nights. I get it, or you haven't eaten, or you've put in 60 hours this week. And if you don't take care of that self, you're going to do stuff that's going to cause harm to yourself or to other people or to your organization. And so go take care of it in a positive way.
Yeah, and that, you just hit the nail on the head. The ability to check your ego, to say, all right, something feels off balance here. But I feel like that even just getting to that place where you're able to regulate yourself takes time. And I think once you do it and you start taking those baby steps toward, like, even the tiniest thing toward a self-care, it's something more than you did yesterday. But once you start to tap into those feelings of anxiety, or, listening to your body, when when your body's tired, being able to say, all right, tonight my body's saying go to bed at 8:30, which I do every night, also part of the balance. And that's part of it,
But how do you get out to the show?
You'll notice I strategically time it so that I don't have something going on the next day when I have to get up early. But yeah, I think you're right. I think it's being able to trust yourself, right? Yeah. It's about trusting yourself. I know that I'm doing the best I can, but in this moment, I got to give myself a little grace and take a minute.
And the work is so important, and you have learned so much about it that the world needs you to do it well. And so you got to recognize that you're not in it for this week's goal. You're not in it for this month's goal. You're in it for the long haul, and you do need to take care of yourself, and keep learning, keep curious.
Yeah.
Boy, the time always goes so fast up here. Let me ask this question. This is a complete, about face from this theme, but what's something you wish the world understood about the people and the families that AIM serves that you think maybe they don't really get?
I think that people don't know what they don't know. And I have learned that I continue to be fascinated that the people we support are exactly like the rest of us. And they have the same wishes, the same hopes, the same dreams. They like the same sports teams. They like the same foods. They want to do the same things. They like to dance. All of those things make you realize that there's just this system that had been created historically that they're born into, that they, were different than us. But in reality, they want the same things that the rest of us do. And so what's been really inspiring for me is learning that and then being able to use that to fuel how we raise awareness and try to get that message out. And everybody, we as humans, we want to connect. We want to feel loved and accepted and validated and be part of a meaningful community. And they're no different. And so the more we can open ourselves up, both personally, being more accepting of others just in general, being more accepting of ourselves and learning to be a little kinder, I think it just makes you more open and raw and able to accept more people around you. And so that's something that I wish people knew is like, they're not different. Maybe they live in a different kind of house or a different kind of setting or need a different kind of transportation, but they're actually not different on the inside and as a human.
You could still talk about what happened to the Yankees.
Yeah, 100%. We sent 110 people to a Yankees game. They're still talking about it. It was the best day ever.
So they weren't Yankees fans then?
I mean, yeah, right. Well, fair. They were just happy to be at the game. See, because you know why? Because they're just living in their best moment, living their best life. They're not worried about who's winning and who's losing.
That's so cool. That's great. So I said at the beginning of this conversation, a lot of people in guidance departments and in colleges don't really talk too much about the social impact sector as a great place to have a career, but so many of us work, in these jobs. And so if you were to go talk to a high school class or a college class, what kind of advice would you get about considering this type of work?
So I would say trust your gut. Don't worry about what your diploma says or what classes you take. Start to think about where your strengths lie. If you're a people person, start investigating what kind of jobs might be great for people. If you're a numbers person, look into that. Don't worry so much about what your degree tells you you're getting. I have a daughter who's approaching 16, and we're starting to talk about school. And, we've had conversations about just following your gut. Like, what do you want to do? And fortunately, she already has a strong sense of self and kind of knows what makes her tick. But I feel like, again, people are so focused on the external, and they're not saying, like, well, what do you like? What makes you excited? What inspires you? What fuels you? When don't you feel good? Like, I was horrible at math, horrible. So clearly, I was avoiding anything that had anything to do with math. So, tapping into that and saying, ironically, my joke is now I help raise the funds, but then someone else counts it. Thankfully.
That's great. So, and let me just sign off by saying, is there a story in your work at AIM that's maybe some story of somebody you touched in the last year or two that you could share that kind of shows the impact of your work? And I also kind of want to fold into that. You could have picked up the phone when you were at Finger Paint and starting to feel like this isn't really what I want to be doing anymore. You could have picked up the phone and called probably any one of a dozen different organizations around Saratoga, and they would have said, yes, please come over here and work with us. That would be great. What made you pick AIM, and then show us the impact?
So what made me pick AIM was that I had gotten to know them when I was actually at Finger Paint, and we worked on a project with them. So it resonated with me then. And I had also worked with people with disabilities when I was young. So it always kind of held a special place in my heart. So, and the people at AIM, I had a relationship with some of the folks, with Chris and Marissa, and I had known them ahead of time. So, so that was part of what kind of pulled me in that direction. And also them being kind of knowing they were on the cusp of like a lot of growth and thinking maybe this is a time when they'd be ready for it. So that's what brought me there.
And what was the work that you did when you were young?
I was a peer mentor for people with developmental disabilities at an after-school program, and did that both after school and then for like 2 summers, I think. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And because I was just hanging out with them, learning, hey, they're just like me, you know? So that was always in the back of my mind. The human service side of things doesn't ever leave you when that's like, you know, at your core. In terms of the stories at AIM, there's probably too many for me to even highlight. I wish that I actually could have even more of an impact than I do, and I'm committed to like continuing to grow that. You know, I'm working shifts on the weekends just to try and build those relationships, because it's important to me to make sure that I'm like really walking the walk. That's hard with work-life balance, but I'm trying to plan for it proactively so that it doesn't feel rushed. But yeah, I think anytime we can feel like somebody has a hope or a wish, and we're able to help meet that for them, whatever it is. It can be something super simple that to you or me seems like a mundane thing, but to them it's something they've just been waiting for someone to listen to them and honor their request, and we can do that for them. Or it can be something big, like they want to go on vacation to New Jersey and we help pay for it. Whatever it is, it runs a gamut, and it's so deeply personal, and it's all built around that meaningful connection.
Great. Is there anything else that you'd like to say? Maybe a word of advice, a word of encouragement to people in this room who are working really hard to make good things happen in this town?
I would say just don't be too hard on yourself. Surround yourself with really good people who believe in you and believe in the work that you do, and make that your priority. Make it your priority to have a purpose and to be driven by that purpose and that mission, and trust your gut. Don't be so caught up in the box checking. I always say less box checking, more gut checking. That's always my, yeah.
All right, you got it, folks. So thank you, Bogle-Liebert. This was a wonderful conversation. I really appreciate you taking time out of your very busy schedule to come down here. So we're going to get off the stage and just hang out for about a half hour, and there are coffee and cookies at the back of the room. So thank you to anybody watching online.
Thank you.
And great.
Thank you. Okay. Woohoo.